The marching of their feet brought Yin an intense temperament and growing in her core, as the beat drums her heart with uneasiness. The day has come for General Aizawa and his soldiers to arrive at Igneous, as is the day for Yin to step into Bakugou's shoes. The general leading his men stopped their marching as they faced Yin and Kirishima. They offered a bow before asking a question. "Where is the king?" Yin answered, "There has been an unfortunate situation, General. It would be best that we discuss it in the war room." With that, everyone moved themselves into the war room, where confusion between the soldiers ensued, and Kirishima wasted no time in explaining Bakugou's situation as soon as everyone was settled. Immediately, whispers of worry and doubt flew through every soldier. General Aizawa remained calm as he took the situation. "So, the king is unable to do anything?" The general stated. "Yes." Tokiyami then inquired, "Why weren't we informed of this?" "I can't let the word of Bakugou dying to go out in the open," the redhead answered. "There's a chance other kingdoms will come for us in our vulnerable situation." "So, we came here for nothing?" a soldier boldly stated. "The general led us back here because there's in trouble in the front, and we are in need of His Majesty's plan. Seeing that he is in his deathbed and the physician's effort doesn't seem to ease his well-being, I'm afraid we are left with no king to help us," President Mike said, accepting the truth. Kirishima inhaled. "Yes, but you still have your queen." Everyone turned to Yin. The only female in the room felt uneasy with so many eyes trailed on her, especially now that the stares are couple and doubtful. Whispers either she can live up to Bakugou or not. A woman? That does she know about war? She may be the queen, but she definitely has no experience in the battlefield. I can't believe the day will come that a woman will tell us what to do. Their opinions have very much offended Yin, but seeing that they asked for a monarch's advice and that she's the only monarch left to face them, they have no choice. She decided to repress her wounded feelings, for there is much more pressing matters at hand. So, Yin stepped up. "Gentlemen, I do not care about your opinions of me being a woman," she stated. "But seeing that we are in a dire circumstance right now, I believe our highest priority is to address what other problems you have at the front, and I shall aid you with everything that I can." There was a short silence before they broke out with their protesting once again. Only General Aizawa, Tokiyami, and President Mike remained silent, as they waited for whatever Yin has to offer. "How can we expect you to listen to someone who does not share our knowledge in war?" a soldier challenged, giving Yin a disapproving look. Aside from their opposing to her gender, to them, Yin is just the foreigner who happens to have the title of queen by marriage. But nonetheless, she's a queen. "I am still your queen. You should listen to me." Her tone sounded final and fierce. It worked as the soldiers slowly died down with their protests. Yin hated doing that, displacing her power, but if that's the only thing to shut them up, then it'll do. "Now, General, what is the situation?" The general made haste to lay out a map of in the table, which they focused on, the area where the front lines is. "This is where our men are situated." General Aizawa pointed to an area of the map beside the river. On the other side the river is where the enemy are stationed, in a impertinent fortress. They use the fortress to their advantage, and so far, we haven't made any progress in preventing it yet. This river our men can cross, but the bridge isn't enough to transport all of our canyons to fire against the front lines. Tokiyami added, "Some idiots have suggested building a larger bridge, but we can't do that. Oh my god. Not that with Glacia's soldiers firing their cannons at us from the fortress from time to time," President Mike stated, giving a glance to one of the soldiers, practically to those who opted Yin earlier. Yin sighed. "So, we have no advantage with us whatsoever?" "No," Aizawa answered. "If we are to abandon our situation here," President Mike said, "Glacia's soldiers would advance and take more territory of the kingdom of Rus. We certainly would not want to abandon our station, Major. It will give greater advance to Glacia to reach Igneous in no time." She shook her head. Yin surveyed the map. She pointed to the fortress and wandered her gaze to find a city miles behind the fortress. It is no doubt that Glacia has already taken over the city and Igneous can't circle to the city to ambush the fortress. Yin let her eyes wander again before she spotted something. This area around the fortress, she trailed. Is it an open field? No, Your Majesty, General Aizawa answered. A forest surrounds it. Suddenly, as if a light hit itself above Yin's head, she remembered a story about a great war in which a kingdom won itself by war using somewhat cunning strategies. We have to lead Glacia into our false surrender. Everyone looked at Yin. The moment she said that, as if she had just lost her mind. Pardon, Your Majesty? Tokiyami's asked, startled. This river stretches long enough that there's area not visible to Glacia soldiers. They are cooped up in the fortress, thinking they'll protect them, but we also have to take advantage of the area they do not cover, she said. You're suggesting an ambush? General Aizawa stated. Yin nodded. Yes, leave enough men in the front lines to hold out the attacks from the fortress. Deploy soldiers in these areas here and here. She pointed to areas on both sides of the river, invisible from the view of the fortress. Have them build a bridge here, enough for many men to cross. Lead the cannons at the front. Tell your men the two sides of the river not to fit any fires or do anything that might give the enemies their whereabouts. From time to time, send half of the men to the other side of the river and have them hide in the forest and to surround the fortress. Once you do that, the half of your men left at the stationary should announce a surrender. That way, the Glacier soldiers will immediately leave the fortress and advance on the territories across the river. When they do that, all of your men, the half that's surrendered and the half that surrounded the fortress, will circle the Glacier soldiers, and we will attack them from there. There was a moment of silence in the war room. It was thanks to President Mike that the silence was broken. What a cunning strategy, Your Majesty. But it is very risky and requires a lot of time, he says. I know, Yin nodded. But this is our only advantage at this point. If we don't take this risk, our men will continue to die at this point without advancing. President Mike breathed in deeply. He looked at Tokiyami, who nodded, and sent a look to the general. Aizawa wondered his eyes all over the map before he gave a nod of approval. You heard her. We move forward. Kirishima didn't have to worry about Yin after all. If there's one thing he had learned from earlier meetings with the soldiers, Bakugou's wife is pretty capable of doing the things needed to be done. Kirishima thinks it's her determination after all. That same trait of hers was caused a lot of trouble and possibly some sort of admiration from her husband. Bakugou really did pick one hell of a wife. But because the problems at the front have been solved, doesn't mean he can relax now. He is just to make sure that Bakugou's health is stabilized and that the traitor will be finally caught. So far, everyone had alibis that proven their innocence. Kirishima is now thinking that in order to lure out the traitor, maybe he should lay a trap. Right now, he is on his way to Bakugou's room to guard. Huh? Kirishima stopped at the end of the hallway where he saw a figure disappear at the other end of the hallway. Immediately, he looked at the guards who stood by the door of Bakugou's room. They did not notice that someone had lingered through the halls. Hey! He alarmed the guards and approached them. There's someone out there! He yelled while pointing to the direction where he saw the figure. One guard immediately went away to check who it was. Kirishima opened the door and peeked inside to see that Bakugou is still inside. The room looked untouched. His friend is still breathing somewhat. He closed the door and told the remaining guard to stay while he followed the other. Dread is pulling in his stomach. As the redhead reached the other end of the hallway, he looked around to see nobody, and when he saw not a single soul, he decided to search the area. Upon turning to another hallway, he was met with a frantic Lady Cammy. Lady Cammy, he said, surprised, but then glanced at the noble. Was it you just now? It was her. I saw her coming from the direction of Bakugou's room. Lady Cammy frantically blabbered. Who is exactly her? Lady Cammy shook her head, looking worried and scared. Yin. It was Yin. To the eyes of others, Yin was successful. She was able to provide the aid she promised, yet, at the same time, The female felt like there is one more thing she has still yet to accomplish, and that is the favor of the soldiers. Yes, they favored her plan, a bit risky and unsure. It is a cunning, and if explored with probity, the chances of success increase. But the other soldiers do not favor the person who desires the plan. Yin was able to sort priorities straight earlier, but now that the matter at hand has been given a resolve, others worried take turns to accompany her mind. She needs the whole military for her coup, and it is not her best interest to have another soldier demeanicate her. Of course, as a woman, her feelings are offended, very much offended. She has shown that she can be just as capable as her husband and believes that her improvement would take that much more practice, but Yin knew she's still determined enough to accomplish that. Yin sighed and decided to clear her head by taking a walk around the palace. It's the middle of the night, and it's comforting to know that the hallways is rid of nobles at this very moment. She walked with no distraction in mind and let her feet lead her endlessly. In the middle of the hallway, she encountered General Aizawa. He offered a bow. "You did a great job today, Your Majesty," he said, as they shared the view of the outdoors from the window. "It wouldn't be possible without your support." She smiled. "Of course, but you don't seem to be satisfied." Yen refrained silent and only offered a sigh. She looked at the general to see him approaching and unexpected from her. "If I were to tell you what bothers me, General, you should be focused to report my plans to my husband." Realizing etched itself onto the general's face. I forgot about that." He nodded to himself. "I was about to talk to you about that." Yen is startled. She immediately hurried her gaze to the general, confused, and a hesitation pulsed within her eye-colored eyes. "But first, I must apologize that I sort of underestimated your capabilities," he said. Yen seemed to not have heard what he said, because she is still shook. You want to discuss about the general is amused. "Don't give yourself a shock, Your Majesty, and I will once again warn you not to let your hopes high up." That seems to slap a good amount of sense to Yen. She fixed her posture and coughed. "Of course, I will not do that again." "Yes, I will only say this to you, Your Majesty." Yin waited in silence. "We are to depart tomorrow for the front, and if this plan of yours works, then I'll consider a place in your coup." The general didn't even spare any time for Yin to express her gratitude, as he already turned his back to her and walked away. But that did not stop Yin from celebrating all to herself. She clutched her nightgown a bit and bit her lip to stop the sound of victory escaping her mouth. Literally, she screamed her success, and she can feel her head overheating from the situation and sudden swell of emotions. "I did it!" There was no use in staying here anymore. Yin knew that by now she can sleep soundly tonight with the news she's received. Although there's no full certainty of it, she is happy that there is finally a chance that General Aizawa will join her coup. She just needs to have faith in her plan to work. Yin started to walk towards her chambers, and in the middle of it, she started to skip like a happy child. Soon, she reached her chambers and stopped to take it all in. She stood by her bed and considers praying for the best outcome when suddenly, loud knocks came from outside her door. It opened without her permission, and a worried Uraka came along with Kirishima. "What's going on?" Yin asked immediately, unsensing the tension atmosphere around them. "Your Majesty, what did you do?" Uraka whispered to her and clutched her arm with worry. Yin is now frightened. The joy she felt earlier is now but a fleeting moment. She did not answer Uraka, for she also doesn't know what she did wrong. Turning to Kirishima, the redhead looked a bit disapproval, and a bit of her stomach proceeded to analyze heat. "What is happening, Kirishima?" Yin asked. "I'm so sorry, Majesty, but I have to put you on lockdown," he said briefly before 3 palace guards came in. Yin glanced at Kirishima. "And why would you do such a thing?" The male looked a bit guilty and a bit hesitant, but for Kirishima, he has a duty to serve. "You were sighted wandering near Bakugou's chambers, Your Majesty." The first thing that came into Ian's mind that maybe they found out that she and Midnight used a secret passage to visit Bakugou, but Kirishima never said anything about anything about that. He said, wandering near. Me? Where exactly have you seen me wandering around near my husband's chambers? She asked. Uraka squeezed her arm, scared for her, but Yin assured the brunette by placing a hand on top of hers. There are 2 witnesses who sighted a person wandering around the hallways where Bakugou's chambers is located, Kirishima said. Me, and being one of the witnesses, have seen the person, and it was Lady Kami who confirmed that it was you. Lady Kami. The moment Yin heard the woman's name, she knew this was another scheme of hers to wrong Yin, and judging by the situation, she seems to be winning. However, the judgment will be passed by Kirishima. Yin is in party guilty because she and Midnight secretly went to see Bakugou, but they never meant to harm him. And on this one, Yin can't afford to let Lady Kami ruin her now, and that her coup is on the path to success. I never went near my husband's chambers earlier, Kirishima, she said, not technically a lie since she really never went to see Bakugou earlier. Your Majesty, there's no use in denying it. Kirishima shook his head. Someone saw. It was you. If it was me, then your king would have been dead already, Yin said in a fury. Kirishima widened his eyes and shook his head. How is my husband, Kirishima? Is he dead? She seethed. No, he's not. Because if he is dead, you would restrain me already. Yet, you are stalling because you have no proof other than a mere witness statement from a woman who wishes to get rid of me. The redhead seemed to understand that Yin is saying, yet his authority never yields. It isn't me you should watch out for. It should be Lady Kami. Maybe she's also the one who ordered for the ambush of my husband. Kirishima's eyes widened upon Yin's statement. She knew Kirishima would go and try to prove what she just said about Lady Kami. I did say whoever steps inside Bakugou's chambers would be immediately banned as a traitor. And in your case, he continued, I don't know what you were doing out there, but you went near Bakugou, and I have no choice but to take precautions, Your Majesty. Yin took a sharp breath and glared, as if I'd say, I will be putting you on lockdown, Your Majesty, he stated. You are not allowed to leave your chambers unless I prove that it wasn't really you. I will also put you under surveillance, and should you do anything suspicious, then you will be giving me no choice but to further suspect you. Yin thinks this is ridiculous. She couldn't think straight because her frustrations seemed to overlap her rational thoughts. I hope you will cooperate, Your Majesty. With a bow, Kirishima is gone, and all that's left is a fuming Yin and a worried Uraraka, along with the guards that will keep her restrained for the unknown days. I believe you, Yin, Uraraka said to comfort her. She smiled sadly at the brunette and muttered a gratitude before sighing and sitting on her bed. At least the guards decided not to linger in her chambers. Instead, they guard her drawing room where they have eyes at the doors every time. What are you going to do now? The brunette asked, asking Yin a concerned look. I need to think of something, she answered tiredly. Do you want me to stay here tonight? Yin looked at her friend with a grateful smile before nodding. That would be greatly appreciated. Thank you, Uraraka. I'm always at your service, Yin. That night, the candles in Yin's chambers were all put out safe for the one at the table at the near fireplace. She laid on her bed with Uraraka sound asleep beside her. She wished she could sleep now because her head ached from what just happened. The moonlight peeked at the creak of the curtains, and her room is still. The guards at the drawing room were just the same, quiet, and Yin knew they had to keep their eyes up for anything. Uraraka closed the door that connected her drawing room and bedroom earlier, so that they could have privacy from the guards. And Yin is thankful that the brunette thought so, because right now, Yin is thinking of something very risky. It is stupid, and would certainly have her restrained by the guards if she won't be careful. But this is the only way she can think of. Quickly and quietly, Yin crossed from her bed and grabbed the only candle left. Then she found herself straying at the wall beside her bed. She searched for a crack and carefully pressed a part of the wall. And then there's a click. Yin froze, afraid that the guards might have heard the sound, but there's no movement from them yet. Thankfully, the hidden door does not creak, and Yin was able to get inside successfully and shut the wall behind her. She then started to move. Her feet led her to turn corners after corners based on what she memorized. The last time midnight took her in this venture, the beat of her heart started to get louder, as if she was nearing her destination, and Yin reached the wall that would lead to Bakugou. It was as if her heart had rested, and she needed to take a deep breath and feel it beat again. Again, with a careful move, she opened the hidden door and went and met with the sight of Bakugou's chambers. There he is, still alive, with shallow breaths. Yin slowed her steps as she walked to his side and stopped right beside him and fixed the odd clench in her chest once again as she looked at his condition. Right now, Yin is thinking about what she came here to do, and it is the only thing she must do now. Her palms raised and hovered above Bakugou's body. She lowered it until it touched the bandages that covered his burns. Yin gulped and closed her eyes, feeling the surge of her quirk awaken and her palms cover in warmth as it glowed red. Then, a part of him breaks. Kirishima needs to fix this. What Yin said to him earlier bothered him so much that he refuses to rest for the night unless he confronts Lady Kami. But he can almost not believe it. Everyone knew in this court that Lady Kami had been pinning to marry Bakugou, but obviously she would never got the chance. If there's anyone around here she would wish to hurt, it should have been Yin. Lady Kami could never hurt Bakugou. Why would she wish to ambush him? Kirishima started to analyze everything that has happened at the time before Bakugou was attacked, and he can feel he almost got it when suddenly someone called for him in a frantic voice. He turned to see it was one of the palace guards he assigned to keep an eye on Yin. "Sir, the queen is gone," he said. Kirishima felt his head spin, and he immediately started to spin all the way to Yin's chambers. When he got there, he saw that Yin is nowhere to be found. What is left is a frightened Uraka being questioned by the guards. "I'm telling the truth. Her Majesty suddenly disappeared," the brunette wailed. Kirishima wasted no time for questions, as he was again sprinting. This time, he was on his way to Bakugou's chambers. He got there and saw that the guards are still standing by the door. Kirishima went past them and immediately opened the door. "Bakugou!" Kirishima stopped, for he suddenly couldn't believe what he was seeing. Yin stood by the side of the bed where Bakugou now lies awake.